cheerio, bonjour, hello, and I'm going to add a new one. Howdy, the middle of the country, the flyover states in the country, in America. Howdy. I do know I have a few people who are from different countries that watch me, so don't mock me right there. Anyway, we're back on now, part two of this video. Thank you for tolerating me last night. So the first thing I marked where I stopped last night, and it's hard to believe we're only 3 minutes into this nonsense. And the very next screen this dude goes to is Munchausen by proxy. I told you I read the book Playing Sick. Maybe it was Playing Ill. No, I believe it was Playing Sick. It was excellent. And it explained why people do this. I will say that I believe 80% of the time women do this. There are very, very few cases of men who do either Munchausen or Munchausen by proxy. Most of you already watch me, but if you're brand new, Munchausen is when you feign illness on yourself. Munchausen by proxy is when you feign illness on others, obviously by proxy. But our girl was painfully insecure, and she didn't need to be. She was good looking. She wasn't dumb. I'm not going to necessarily put her in the Mensa Club. She wasn't dumb at all. And she could have sold a screen door to a submarine owner. I mean, she was an excellent salesperson. Say salesman, but someone will get upset about that. But this is patients who strive to be ill. Shannon wanted attention. You guys know I've been sick. You know all that drama. What I didn't do was post updates online. And even when I had Facebook, I didn't do that. Pray for people. My goodness, the space bar never works the first time. I say this every time. Y'all think I would have figured this out by now. I have a great education.
To draw statistical conclusions regarding commonalities among the perpetrators. And the characteristics of the perpetrators.
Okay, so it says female 98%. I think I just said 80-something percent. I got my info from the book. But, so, we're just going to say women. I mean, it's 98% of women do this. 95% of those 98 are mothers. I assume the rest are grandmothers and stuff. But they worked in healthcare, so they had the knowledge. They were able to say things. Thank goodness, I'm going to knock on wood, I have not been in an emergency room in years. But there were times I would walk right in and say, I need an NG tube. And right away, the triage nurse knew I knew what I was talking about. I can only take a 20 for the IV needle. I have very, very little veins, whereas they usually start with a 22. And as soon as I would say, I can only have an 18 or a 20, if I were very dehydrated, I need an 18. But I knew that. The nurses understood, okay, this is a woman who knows what she's talking about. Okay, the average age is 27.
Reported, included.
75% of them are married. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Personality disorder. It says 19% of people who do Munchausen have a personality disorder. Oh my goodness. We all know Shannon had a personality disorder. And remember, I'm not a doctor. I only play one on YouTube. But this woman had narcissistic personality disorder. And there's another big one that they talk about, and I cannot remember. Okay. History of childhood abuse. 30% of people who do Munchausen on other people have a history of childhood abuse. I do not believe Shannon had a moment of physical childhood abuse. However, her father was an alcoholic until she was, I have not figured it out exactly, but around 18 years old. You guys remember, she went to that her drama teacher in high school and used him as her mentor because she didn't have anyone else. So, abuse, not physical, but in Shannon's case, yes, she had mental abuse. My father was my very best friend. I cannot imagine not having my father to go to. So, my goodness, I'll give her not cred for that, but I understand. And then about 24% of these people who do Munchausen on other people have a history of obstetric complications. Well, we know our girl did not at all. Remember, she told Chris she was barren. She would never be able to have children. However, they still bought the big 5-bedroom house with very little yard, no extra room for Chris to work on his cars, when they could have moved 10 miles outside of town, purchased 2 or 3 acres with a small house, and then Chris could have had a garage. I say garage. This woman didn't care about Chris. It was all about her. She had to have the husband, the beautiful home, and the perfect children for her fake online life.
This following list: 97.5% were female, and 95% were the mothers of the victims. A large amount worked in the healthcare
Okay, honey,
setting.
you must go
44%,
faster.
in fact,
I already said
almost
all this.
half, were in some way connected to the healthcare field. And it was often through
I'm
nursing.
moving on. Let's go.
18.5% had some diagnosed
And you all, please remember,
personality disorder. And
Shannon did not have a history in healthcare. She worked at the call center for the Children's Hospital. So you're going to learn lingo that way. But if you take your children to the ER every 3 weeks, you'll learn lingo that way as well.
Almost always what are called cluster B disorders. Those include things like narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. 30% had a history of child.
You all heard all of those disorders. He still didn't say the other one I'm thinking of, but we all know Shannon was a narcissist.
Abuse, and 23.5% had a history of obstetric complications. So there were medical issues during the delivery.
He said it much better than I did.
Child. So looking at these statistics here, I went through and I color coded them. Blue as to which ones pertain to this case, and yellow if they might be relevant. And
if you combine blue and yellow, doesn't that make green? So you guys know I have not watched any of this. Let's see if the whole chart is green.
If they were not. As you can see here, the first 4 definitely
it's
apply.
90 degrees
Shannon
here
was
today.
The mother of Bella and Celeste.
Global warming.
She worked in the healthcare setting. She actually went to school to become a nurse for a few months before she and Chris Watts moved from North Carolina to Colorado.
Okay, that is not true. We have evidence that she took out a loan for nursing school. We have never, ever seen that she was ever enrolled in nursing school. I think Shannon figured out she could get free money from the government, and therefore, whoop, I want to go to school.
And then once in Colorado, Shanann worked at a pediatric call center in a hospital.
Right. Didn't I just say that?
27, Shanann fits the bill. So she was in her late 20s, early 30s during the time period.
So I'll give her the childhood abuse. I cannot imagine my father being an alcoholic.
2009 until 2018. In fact, in one post, she complains that she's only 27 and she has to take 27 different pills.
Okay, hang on. I was up most of last night with a fever. Again, why is... maybe that's why I'm not on Facebook. I do not understand waking up and telling everyone your drama. Do you wake up and say, well, I had to pee 3 times last night, or I stepped on my dog? It just doesn't make sense to me. People, we don't care this much about other people. Okay, I'm only 27 and taking 27 pills a day, not including my vitamins, and I am still in a lot of pain. I wish I could go back in time and enjoy the last 10 years of my life if I knew I would be like this at this age. We need all the help we can. $5 isn't too much to ask for. Is anyone else shocked that she's trying to get money out of people? My goodness, sweetheart, if you're 27 and taking 27 pills a day, maybe go out and start exercising and eating a balanced diet and see what that will do. And I guarantee you'll eliminate many, many of those pills.
Coincidence, but
What a
still interesting
drama
nonetheless.
queen.
And
I want to
yes,
smack
she
her.
was married, obviously. The next two I coded yellow because it's possible that she had either of these. Munchausen
It's not possible. It's 100%.
syndrome, or factitious disorder imposed on self.
Right.
Remember, 31% of offenders have that. And I think it's quite possible that Shannon did have this as well, because she also...
My mom had this is from a post from Shannon. My mom had cancer on her thyroid at 20. Wow. Yeah, I have had a year from hell. First, I was diagnosed with lupus. I I apologize. It was very difficult to say that with a straight face because she was not diagnosed with lupus ever. And her autopsy confirmed she did not have lupus. I'm Sarah Boone. Smacking that damn hand. Okay. Then they added Sirogans. I'm going to look that up. I have no idea. And then endometriosis. Okay. If you have endometriosis, you're not getting pregnant on your first and second try 3 times in a row. Come on, man. This woman had no issue whatsoever with lying. She didn't care. And maybe that's why she also had really no friends. Okay, this, oh, it's Sojins. So she spelled it incorrectly. It's characterized by dry eyes and dry mouth. Okay, but a way to fix that, and if you have this Sojins, I apologize because you probably really have it. But Shannon, another way to fix dry eyes and dry mouth is to start eating healthy. Stop pumping all that stinking caffeine into your body and drink some stinking water. Oh my goodness. And endometriosis, you guys know what that is. That means spider webs, for the most part. Spider webs go around your ovaries, and so the egg is not able to implant. And so most women with endometriosis, they struggle quite a bit to conceive. And we all know this woman didn't struggle at all to conceive. Okay. Back to Shannon's post. Can only live for the moment. Where do you live? Well, where do you live? Where I live, we pay our mortgage. How about you? VG, you paying your mortgage this month? Maria, how about you? Chicka Head, did you pay your mortgage this month?
Had a lengthy
Of course you
list
did.
of medical issues that she talked about on Facebook, the main one being lupus. And there's some question as to whether she actually had lupus or not.
She didn't.
That subject is big enough for a separate video, so
Amen.
I'm not really going to look into that here in this video. But I do plan on doing another video where I'll talk more about
Oh,
that.
good. I like
and
this
whether or
guy
not
already.
I think Shanann actually had Munchausen syndrome herself.
I appreciate that this guy is willing to do research and not just believe everything he's being told. You might be surprised. There's a lot of people that simply believe what they're told.
Personality disorder, specifically cluster B, Shanann may have had this. A person can have characteristics of these disorders without actually being diagnosed. I mean, we have quite a lot of videos of her, and there's a lot of online speculation that, she had one of these. You can check out videos on that if you're interested.
A lot of online speculation that she was crazy.
I don't feel qualified.
It's early, but I'm putting charcuterie
really
out.
Talk about that to any real depth. The last two, history of childhood abuse.
Yeah. Well,
there's no indication.
There's not, but I've already said it. If your father is an alcoholic, you're not getting the attention you need. And I consider physical abuse equivalent to mental abuse, and to me, mental abuse is almost worse.
Of that for Shanann, in her Facebook posts, probably because they're her Facebook posts, we're not ever gonna know to any extent, if she was abused or not. So this one's not really relevant. And the history of obstetric complications doesn't appear to apply. Almost 1 out of 4 have something along those lines. And I didn't see anything where either Bella or Celeste had any complications during their birth or delivery. Additionally, there are 3 common characteristics to those who are perpetrators of MPPS.
Okay, Doctor, what's up? You do not need to stop what you're doing. But this man who I have just found, and I think he's wonderful, says additionally, issues that come up with people who have Munchausen are the need to exercise control. Um, does that remind you of anyone? You getting ready for the next one? Attention seeking. Remember, uh, Jeremy Lindstrom said he had to block her on Facebook because she posted so much. 7:03 in the morning, she's posting about what a great mother she is and what a great life she has. And remember, at 7:03, she's only got about 27 minutes left with those children until her husband takes care of them at 4:30. And then the third feature is lack of empathy for proxy. Well, guys think about, well, A, you don't post your children in precarious situations or looking ill and tag your children. So you guys remember, oh my goodness, it makes me sick to say this. Had Bella and Celeste lived, at some point their mother was going to hand them their Facebook password, and every one of their friends would have seen Bella sitting naked on the table or trying to put those things in her bottom. How humiliating. But Shannon didn't care. It wasn't about anyone else. It was about Shannon receiving empathy.
And all three, I believe, pertain to this case. First of all, there's
Amen.
a need for control, a need to exercise control. Munchausen
Making
by proxy
charcuterie
is really a form of control. And
if you're a lady and you're listening, remember all your husband wants is to eat and for you to be nice to him. And if you do that, life is really nice.
So perpetrators can be and tend to be quite controlling to their environment.
Was Shannon controlling?
And
oh my
I think
goodness.
That's definitely true in this case with Shannon.
No doubt.
Next, attention seeking. A person with MBPS does not suffer in silence. They
Right.
proclaim their maladies and ailments.
You realize
quite loudly.
something?
So
I'm half shocked that our girl never started a GoFundMe to help take care of her daughter's health cost. Now, Chris did say at one time the girls were sick and his co-workers did a collection and they ended up buying those silly little couches that the girls sat in. So I guess they did receive some benefits from faking the BS about your children.
I think that also applies to this case. And then lastly, a lack of empathy for the proxy.
Exactly.
Which is obvious. If you're inducing illness in a child for your
Rudy,
own sympathy or attention, then clearly you lack empathy for that person. And what's interesting about this case is that you don't hear anything about this when you just watch, a documentary or a news clip.
You watch my documentaries, you do.
But once you start looking into it and you start watching the videos and looking at the posts, all three of these come to the surface pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Amen.
It's pretty easy to see that all three of these apply to Shanann. And I could, spend a whole video about this topic. I could show you video after video after video.
Amen.
Post after post. And point out all three of these. But I'm just going to give you one example, and that's the Christmas video that you can find online.
It's the worst.
It's a good example of all three of these.
Oh, I want to see what he has to say about this.
Chris Watts has been dressed up as Santa. It's clearly been orchestrated by Shanann, and her focus is recording it, getting...
Let me know below. How much do you think it costs them to rent that Santa Claus costume? They're not renting it in April. They're renting it at Christmas when demand is high. My guess is $240.
Online, taking pictures. That's her focus. Meanwhile, the children, Bella and Celeste, are
hysterical,
terrified. Celeste is screaming, crawling away, running away.
Come here.
This is hysterical.
Uh,
She's got those bed sheets taped to her chairs. Again, tell me why her parents. I'm sorry, let me get the water crackers out. Why her parents didn't phone her immediately and say, I'm sorry, take that video down. It makes you look like Satan.
Bella is crying. She never puts the camera down.
Nope.
She goes through with the whole thing, taking
Right.
pictures, of these children they're crying. At one point, she puts Bella on
Look at
Chris
Bella.
Watts' lap, who's
She's
dressed up as
reaching
Santa,
for her mother.
and Bella's just crying.
Disgusting.
And in the background, you can hear Celeste screaming for well over a minute or two, and she is just being completely ignored.
Thank you. One's for your sister, and one's for you. Can you sit on Santa's lap? So you
Listen to Cece.
Santa.
I have to stop. This is not totally overwhelming to you. I cannot believe, A, this woman allowed this to happen, but B, she posted it. She wasn't embarrassed or horrified.
Do you want to sit on his lap? Okay. Can you sit with me? Santa, can you sit on your lap? Yes.
No, she doesn't want to be there, Mother.
You've been a good girl this year, Bella. Thank you.
Greek yogurt, good. Oh, look at her.
Then
She doesn't
she
want
is
to
brought
be
in, put on
there.
Santa's lap, continuing to scream and cry, just so Shanann can get a picture. The whole time Shanann is recording this, she's kind of showing
Her
a
father.
little bit of disdain in her facial expressions whenever the children resist.
And there's Dad. Just, oh, yay, that's great, Shannon. Because I spent the first 18 years of your life as a drunk, I'll just ignore all your poor parenting now. Shannon would have been better off being a drunk.
You can tell it's not going the way
Look
she
at how
planned it.
patronizing
She's
she
not happy
is.
about it.
Don't you want to smack her? It's a shame we are not able to smack her. Yeah, why would you? You're embarrassing the child.
The Grinch.
Publicly. Why would you do this?
Bella, say hi.
The first thing she says to Chris
What a
when
wench.
she opens the door to greet him is,
Hey Santa, where's your phone?
Hey,
I wanted it.
she's more concerned
sorry, my chin hit the
about
bar.
the phone than the two screaming children
Exactly.
in the background. She makes fun of Chris.
My husband.
This is what it's like being a single parent. This woman, I don't know if he's going to show this, but she actually had the audacity to say this. This woman who spends 2.5 hours a day parenting. And remember, one of the main reasons she had to get him out of Longmont Ford was because he had to work Saturdays. And oh my goodness, she can't parent from 8 a.m. to 12:30 on a Saturday, so she needed to find him a better job. Anadarko was a better job. But oh my goodness, that is the reality.
The genius doesn't listen.
Food out.
Santa, you gained some weight this year. Come on, Santa. Sit down, Santa. Have a seat. Can you sit down, please?
Exactly
Santa?
right. Tell Santa where to go.
And this is not a one.
You know, they just passed that Christmas tree. I believe I saw a post one time where she's bragging about how she had 5 Christmas trees in her home. Now that huge Christmas tree near her stairs at the living room area, the front entrance, that's gorgeous and that works perfectly. Use that as your Christmas tree. What do you need 5 Christmas trees for? How about pay your mortgage?
thing. This is a pattern that you see over and over and over again in these videos.
Goodness.
Okay, so moving on. Just want to mention another article from 2020 looked at 81 cases and looked at some statistics regarding the method of fabrication. So I've listed them here. And also in parentheses, you'll see Y and B. That's the Yates and Bass article that I mentioned previously. So they do the same thing and they have different percentages. So where there's a big discrepancy between the two, I've put them in parentheses.
I will tell you all, that I just looked it up. You can buy a Santa Claus costume on Amazon for $80. You know, it's not going to be as great as that. However, I did look up rental Santa costumes, Denver, Colorado, and it averages about $250. So there's 10% of their mortgage that they have not paid for the last 6 months. Oh, I'm sorry. Remember, they took a 401k loan. They got 3 months caught up, but they're still 3 months behind. But we must spend that $250 to terrify our children.
The main point of this is to
That'll
just
give
show you
them
there's different ways that
nightmares.
MBPS can be perpetrated.
Okay.
You can provide false information.
False information. Is it wrong for me to say that Shannon Watts was a liar? She was a liar. Anyone who pushes an MLM on you, they're lying. Just bottom line. Anything else, it's a lie.
Hold them.
Every time she talks about how much laundry she's done. No, she didn't. Chris did the laundry. Chris had your clothing separated by colors. It wasn't you, it was your husband.
Information. There's exaggeration.
Withholding information. So she's saying, please, yes, sign up for Thrive. Your life will be great. But what she forgets to tell you is that you're going to be out $300 a month. You'll probably be a little jacked up on cocaine, and you may struggle to pay your electric bill.
Simulation, that's where, for example, a parent takes their own tissue or body fluid and substitutes it for proxy to throw off medical tests.
I've never heard of
Induction
that.
is by far
Shannon
the
didn't do
most
that.
common with 74%, and that's where the perpetrator actually makes the victim sick, ill.
Okay, I don't believe that Shannon. There's a case. Well, I say recently. Shoot, I'm 52. It could have been 20 years ago, and I feel like it happened last week. A woman, her baby was in the hospital, and she actually took salt and put it into the IV bag and overdosed her child on salt. You guys remember Lacey Spears out of New York? She overdosed her child on salt. I do not believe Shannon was doing anything to purposely make her children ill. I do not believe her children were ill. I think they were perfectly healthy, and the majority of the quote-unquote symptoms were made up by mom.
It's through over medicating.
Get ready for the next one.
along
Neglect.
those lines. Then you can also have neglect, and
Hmm.
then you can have coaching, and that's where the children.
Okay. So the coaching is, I'll go back to neglect in a moment. As Shannon is driving Bella to the ER, she's saying, and I know, Bella, your tummy hurts so much, or your throat hurts so much. And she's just pushing this into Bella's head so that when the doctor says, Bella, what's wrong? Bella says, my tummy hurts so much, or my throat hurts so much. She has gaslit Bella into her symptoms. And I fully believe this. You guys know that the doctors in that hospital rolled their eyes every time this family walked in. Okay, now reverse. Neglect. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts below. Neglect. Remember, Shannon spent 30 minutes in the morning with these children, and then she dropped them off at the $550 a week daycare. $550 for both children. And then around 4:30, her husband picked them up. So at 6:30, they got their Benadryl and their Tylenol, and they were sent to bed. This woman spent 2.5 hours a day, on average, with her children. Neglect, I think that's the definition.
Go along with the ruse. Most of these cases
The ruse. Ruse-X, no pun intended.
occur with children
Just
younger
odd
than
coincidence,
maybe
correct?
6 or 7. So they're just too young to really understand
Right.
what's going on at that point, and so they tend to just.
To these two children, this was normal. They had never experienced anything outside of this.
Go along, whether they realize it or not. And this slide is important because it's going to structure the rest of this video.
Okay, the slide is titled, Doctor, what's up? You do not need to stop. Factors leading to diagnosis. This is going to be huge. I'm going to touch on these before I hit play again, but past healthcare. Shannon claimed to have, it says extensive medical history. Peregrination. I cannot say the word, but it means doctor shopping. I believe part of the reason that Shannon moved from North Carolina to Colorado was because she had run out of doctors. But another reason was to alienate Chris from his family. We currently have a prince from England who married some twit. And what did she do? She brought him to California, alienated him from his family. She has alienated herself from her family. If you're dating someone and they're against your family, dump them now. There's a excuse me. There's a reason. Okay, it's info from patient, inconsistent, misleading, exactly. Atypical presentation. I love that word, atypical. I have very few times I could use it, but I'll say it again. Atypical presentation. The symptoms occur when no one's around, but when someone's around, no, really, she was coughing 15 minutes ago. I mean, goodness. Unsubstantiated presentation. And that means the test results were negative. Well, these children would never have been released from the ER right away if there was something genuinely wrong with them. Patient behavior. Unusual use of medical terminology. Okay, well, this is a child. I'm going to move on, but this is a child. Remember, Shannon had to drive them 18 minutes to that hospital. And in that 18 minutes, my goodness, you can convince Bella how sick she is.
This is from a
Bella
Gates and
trusted
Feldman
this
article in
woman.
2016 that looked at 455 cases.
I broke my
and
water bottle
they
today. I
looked
need a
at
new one.
The ways in which MBPS was diagnosed. What characteristics were present that clued
Hang on.
the healthcare professionals
I'm going to look it up.
the fact
It's almost
that
never diagnosed.
MBPS might be going on here. So, the first one, past healthcare. You can have an extensive medical history. You don't have to, but you can. Then there's peregrination, which means to move around, to travel, to journey. Peregrination is
That's what she did.
a fancy way of saying doctor shopping. That's where a person moves from doctor to doctor. If they don't,
you guys, I read that book, Playing Sick, and Munchausen is almost never diagnosed. I was going to say, it's similar to lupus and fibromyalgia. However, Shannon's autopsy proved she had neither, yet she claimed to have both.
the attention and the diagnoses that they want.
She loves that attention.
From one doctor to the next. The next one, info from patient. So the information can be inconsistent, it can be selective, misleading, or evasive. Atypical presentation. This is when symptoms occur, but only when the patient is unobserved.
Right.
So, for example, the mother says the child has a fever every day, but then she takes him to the doctor, and the child never has a fever at the doctor's office.
Lacey Spears used to go to the doctor and say, he's had a fever of 105 for the last 6 days. And they would take his temperature, and it'd be 98.6. If your child has a fever of 105, you take him to the hospital, you wench.
Possible or highly improbable courses of illness, dramatic but inconsistent symptoms. So this has to do with the symptoms being strange or odd enough to tip someone off that something might not be right here. In a vast majority of cases, 78%, there is unsubstantiated presentation. So this includes negative test results, inconclusive test results, and an unacceptance of wellness.
Okay, part of the bigger problem is doctors and nurses are weary of writing in a chart, I believe the parent is making it up, because of litigation. People sue. Some woman put a cup of coffee between her legs at McDonald's. The lid broke off and she sued because she burned herself. Now, that's all the media told you. If you want to know the whole... And McDonald's lost, but then on appeal, McDonald's won, and this woman had to pay all of McDonald's legal costs. It's funny that the media forgets to tell you about that part. But people are so litigious these days, you must be very, very careful. Our girl, Lacey Spears in New York, that was part of the problem. The doctors were scared to put it in writing that we think this woman is making her child ill.
And this sort of ties in with the extensive medical history, but it's common for someone with MBPS to go to doctor after doctor with different complaints.
Shannon did start taking the girls, and I'm going to make it up because I do not know, to Colorado Hospital 1. And then when Bella was around 3, they started going to Colorado Hospital 2, which means my guess is Colorado Hospital 1 had her figured out.
Tests are run, and they're all negative, they're all inconclusive, but the patient doesn't stop. They continue to, seek
to
a
a different
diagnosis,
hospital.
and they don't accept that they're actually healthy and okay. Patient behavior is a big one. So this is where you see things like an unusual use of medical
The
terminology
gaslighting.
or medical knowledge, but things that imply that they have done a lot of research on whatever it is they think.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily by itself.
How about that
prove that someone might
FMLA
have
thing, that
BPS, but,
familial
it's
flu
definitely
that
a
I'd
common
never heard of?
occurrence in these types of cases. They are often friendly with hospital staff, going out of their way to endear themselves to the hospital staff, nurses, and doctors. But they can also be non-compliant, and they can also do what's called splitting.
My man is outside digging weeds, and a little bit of me feels guilty that I'm not helping him.
It's a term you see sometimes
He's working
with,
very
like,
hard.
borderline personality disorder, where someone
BPD.
vacillates between extreme like and extreme dislike, or it's sort of black and white thinking, all or
You
nothing.
racist.
And so splitting with doctors and staff. So what that would look like is a doctor who gives the patient a diagnosis. They like this doctor. He's a great doctor. They're the best doctor. But when the doctor doesn't give them a diagnosis, then they're a terrible doctor. They don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, who does that remind you of? There's so many posts about how she has to go find a different doctor because this previous doctor didn't understand what she was even talking about. I mean, does this not define our girl to a stinking T? Her photo should be next to Munchausen by proxy in the dictionary. Goodness.
Then there's non-compliance.
See, my heart gets all elevated.
And being happy with diagnosis and treatment. This one's kind of interesting. So most people, I think, would
I want part
not
two.
be happy when they get a diagnosis. It's not good news. They have to undergo extensive treatments and surgeries and medications. They tend to not be happy with that. But those with MBPS are often feel relieved, happy, and satisfied that they finally got the diagnosis that they knew they had this whole time. And now they're relieved because they know what's going on. And then treatment failure. So treatment is prescribed but doesn't work, or new symptoms appear after treatments, or the symptoms actually get worse, or the treatments are just ineffectual. They don't do anything, and the symptoms persist. Okay, so like the last slide, I went through and I color-coded these based on what I saw when I went through Shannon's social media posts from 2009 to 2018. I looked specifically at all of the ones that were related to
Good for you.
medical issues.
I can't watch her stuff. It makes me want to vomit.
And then I went through this and I color-coded the ones blue, which I thought were clearly evident in her Facebook posts, yellow, which could possibly be there,
Well, this is going
and
to be
white,
good.
which I didn't find any evidence of. And I was actually quite shocked when I did this, because most of them came out blue. There's an extensive medical history.
That shocked you?
There's peregrination. There's symptoms occurring only when unobserved. There may be an impossible or highly improbable course of illness. There are dramatic but inconsistent symptoms. There are negative and inconclusive test results. There is an unacceptance of wellness. There is unusual use of medical terminology, jargon.
This
There's
dude is defining
these different
Shannon
patient behaviors
right
you
there.
see here, all except for noncompliance.
He's
And
defining
then
her.
there are
My
repeated and
goodness.
numerous ineffectual treatments. All of these I saw evidence of.
I hope this
at least
doesn't
in
mess
my
things
opinion,
up. But
when I went
let's
through her
just,
posts.
sorry.
And so the ones in yellow are possibilities, and the ones in white I didn't see. So the info from patient, I didn't see any of that. But again, I'm just looking at her
Ready?
social media. I don't
I want
have
to hear him
access
say
to her medical records.
peregrination.
And so I don't know what she told the doctors.
Peregrination.
So the rest of this essay
How do you
is
say
going
that?
to be going through each of these points and
Come on,
me
honey.
showing
Say
you
that word so I can learn how to
the
say it.
posts and videos where I feel like this is happening. that's probably enough for one video. So
there's part
in
two.
the next
We'll get to part
part,
two.
I'm going to start with the extensive medical
He still
history
didn't teach me how to
and
say
list out
peregrination.
for you all the posts that I
Peregrination.
think apply here. And we'll talk about each of these in depth.
Okay, kids, this dude did an excellent job, did he not? I will do part two. I may get it out today. If you're still watching right now, I'm shocked. I'm humbled. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless this America. You take care. Be safe.